Greetings, Cable Club listeners. Don here. Today we're covering Silent Hill 2, and I just wanted to give you a heads up that the conversation, will contain some pretty intense themes. Some of them are around abuse, domestic assault, and suicide. Just general things that some people might find unsavory or disturbing. So if that's not really your cup of tea, I totally understand, and feel free to skip this episode or skip ahead. To next episode when we actually do rate this game. Steve is not here for this episode, so don't worry, you're not going to miss anything moving around in the league, and feel free to catch us next time. But if you are here for that, then sit back, enjoy. This is a great episode. Welcome to the Cable Club. We are a retro gaming podcast where normally three guys walk around jiggling door handles trying to find out where the F to go. But today we're just two guys and a guest talking about Silent Hill 2 today. I'm your host, Don.
I'm Dan.
And we're here with Justin, aka Sprooch.
How's it going, everybody?
Retro game of Sprooch Retro Game Hunting.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we are talking about our 19th entry in this year's Retro Game League, Silent Hill. And before we do that, I'm going to take a minute to set the mood. The year is 2001. Scary games are starting to become more mainstream. It started with Resident Evil. You avoided it, and now your friends are all talking about this other series, Silent Hill. They talk about how it's hard to see, it's foggy, and there's all kinds of nightmarish creatures lurking around, and the immersiveness. So you pick yourself up a copy, you stay up late on a Saturday night, you shut off all the lights and start playing, and you notice that the surround sound of your room is creating all different kinds of noises around you. And is the game messing with you? You swear you've been through these hallways before, but everything is different, and new enemies, new clues. It's just so hard to see beyond the thick fog. It brings back memories of when you stayed up at night. Maybe your parents didn't know, but you caught glimpses of scary movies that they used to watch, like Alien and Predator, and just spent weeks upon weeks of not sleeping. You shut the TV off, but in the back corners of your mind, you can still see the shapeless figures as you try to shut your eyelids and go to sleep.
Yeah, I will say Silent Hill is the king of messing with you. My God. Like going from like the first to the second game, and you hit it right on the head, Dawn, where it's just basically like, was that like that before? Like I've been through this hallway like a couple of times and I don't remember seeing that. Things like that, it just messes with you, which it makes it great.
Yeah, it's definitely more of the psychological horror trope. And before we get in too deep, I actually want to talk about the question of the week. Go ahead, Dan, tell us what the question of the week is.
Question of the week is, what luck/RNG based mechanic in a video game do you like or dislike most?
As is tradition, we're going to have our guest answer the question first.
Let's hear it.
I got way too deep into Destiny for a long time.
Yeah,
because I'm sure many people did. I had a lot of fun with it, but the raids you would have to do over and over again to get that one thing to tier your character up was a huge pain, and to do it again and again and again. And in all of reality, I don't like playing games with a lot of other people. I like playing solo, stuff. I had fun with Destiny, but anytime I'd have to find raid people where I don't know who they are, or they would just drop out or something. And it was just like, I'm just going to do my own thing. But yeah, the grinding aspect of trying to get that one top tier item without having to use real life money on it was super annoying.
Yeah, that was kind of going to be like my answer too. Basically, like I played a fair share of like MMOs in my day, and just the amount of 1% drop rates or even lower, and it just eventually you just get sick and tired of it, because it's like you're just doing the same content over and over, killing the same boss over and over and over again before you might not even see it. So yeah, it's just that's going to be my answer too. It's just low drop rates just on gear, whether it's single player or multiplayer.
To add on to that, when the same similar style, I got sucked into World of Warcraft for a long time. So right there, I mean, that was the same thing. To make your character better, you had this 1% drop, and it wasn't even going to be yours. You had to roll for it.
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
If you didn't it was need. What was it? Want or need?
It was. I think it was need and greed. Yeah.
Yeah, and you had to wait till everybody rolled, and that last guy, if you didn't trust them, they could kind of screw everybody else.
Yeah. So yeah, you bring up an excellent point there. Yeah, there's layers to this. So basically, you get the 1% drop rate. It finally drops, but everybody else wants it. So you're basically trying to roll against 10 other people. So not only do you got to get it to drop, you also have to win the roll against the other 10 people. So you can see how crazy the RNG can get in these types of games.
Wouldn't it be bad enough to just have one drop all the time and still have it be what? Because some of these raids are 30 people raids, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
A 1 in 30 chance is still really low.
Yeah, you could spend your whole career not getting a specific item because of that.
That's crazy.
I mean, I've watched YouTube videos just of guys rage quitting because of those situations. They go that whole time on and not even the first and only time they do it. They do these multiple times, 2-3 hours at a time.
Wow.
And then someone will just take it out of, you'll sometimes when you go through it with certain people, you'll be promised by the group, be if this drops, you get it, because it affects your character. But every once in a while, you'd have somebody in your group would just be screw you. And
oh yeah, they call those ninja looters.
Ninja looting. There's probably a war out there that ninja looting is responsible for. I know that really made people angry.
Oh,
I think for my answer, I kind of have a positive and a negative, because I think this RNG is not always negative. So I think of things like Diablo, where the dungeons are procedurally generated and they're not always the same all the time. And that's RNG based, and I think that's kind of a good use of it.
That's a good answer too. You talk about rare drop rates, some of the runes in Diablo 2 are crazy.
Diablo
rare.
can be crazy with that. Yeah. But then are you both familiar with roguelike and roguelite type of games?
Yeah, I know them. I don't really play them, but I know what they are.
Part of the variance in those games is what makes them so addicting, right? The quick hits that you can get. Usually, most of those games can be completed in under an hour. But
not every run's the same, pretty much, right?
Yeah, it's cool that not every run is the same.
I was a big fan of Dead Cells. Did you guys ever play that?
Yes. Yep. And Skull and Slay the Spire. Those would be ones that I like a lot.
Where you're made to die over and over again.
Yeah.
And you never do the same thing twice.
But you get a little bit better. You die, you learn. Which is kind of like retro gaming, which I think is maybe why I like it. But
right.
But then, I don't know, negatively, man, I cannot stand critical hits. It could just be the Pokemon fanboy in me, but man, critical hits just rub me the wrong way.
Yeah.
When I get them, it's fine. But when it happens to me, man, I get so tilted.
It just never seems like what it says on the tooltip or whatever. It just never seems like it's accurate. You know what I mean? It's oh, you got a 90% chance or 95% chance of hitting this move, and it doesn't feel like that.
Oh yeah, missing and critting. I'm thinking of Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem's another one where, if you're familiar with that game, you have permadeath characters. So what's going to happen to you is every time an unfortunate thing happens to you, you're going to want to reset because you don't want one of your best guys dying to something silly.
Oh my god!
But it shows you the percentage, where it's percent chance to hit, and your enemy has a 1% chance to crit, and you miss you 98, deal them no damage, and they turn around and they crit you with their 1%er and kill your guy. And that can end 45 minutes worth of gameplay right there.
Yeah, that must be so infuriating.
Well, spoiler,
I'm not really an RPG guy.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You probably avoid that then. I also like card games a lot. But yeah, dice games is a no, which kind of started this question. So that's what we think. But what did you think, Dan? What do we have for community answers this time?
So I'm looking at this. We got some long-winded answers, so I'm just gonna kind of like pick and choose here. We'll start off with Lycanthia. He says, I mean, I think we can all agree that accuracy numbers are usually a lie. Fire Emblem with a 95 hit rate, guaranteed to miss. Pokemon, anything under 90% accurate is a 50-50 at best. Yeah, pretty much what we just said there, but like, yeah, he's not wrong.
I feel personally assaulted by accuracy rates. Like I feel that if it says 80% accuracy, that's what I like to call a dawn coin flip. Like that's 50-50 in my mind, and anything below 80 is just not worth considering.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I'm the same way. If I see like something that's under 75, I'm just like, I don't know.
I'd like to say that I like ranges better. Like if a move does between like I don't want to say that big, but like let's say between like 10 and 20 damage. I'm more okay with systems like that than I am with like
Yeah.
just straight up you miss and do nothing for a whole turn.
So I'm not like really like hardcore into Pokemon like competitively. So like when I see like moves like Thunder and all the other ones with like what is it like 85% accuracy, I just avoid them because I'd rather hit rather than just miss.
It's legit. But then your opponent, your degenerate opponent uses it sometimes
Oh
to
yeah,
fuck
and
you
they'll
out.
get it every time. And crit it on top of that. All right. Actually, Steve actually answered this in Discord. I'll go with him. He says, as far as RNG goes, it is important for games like Magic. It allows an opportunity for players that aren't experienced to sometimes gain an edge. It helps with getting new players into the competitive game because the opportunity for victory applies to both players no matter the skill level. Games without any RNG like chess or checkers are great too, but the better the player will win almost every time. It's a gatekeeping fundamental part of those games. There are a lot of paths to take on this subject. I think both of the types of games are great in their own ways.
Do you play any fighting games, Justin?
I used to play a lot. I haven't so much lately. I think the last thing I played was the remake of Marvel vs. Capcom on that collection set that came out.
Yeah.
That was always one of my favorite fighters, and I got my son into it, and he just button mashes and beats the crap out of me. It's funny. But I used to love my favorite fighting game back in the day. I used to play a lot was Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3.
Oh
I was
yeah.
actually I was actually pretty good at it, but not playing in a long time. I am beyond rusty and I've forgotten most of the moves at this point. But yes, I was a big fan of fighting games.
If we've dabbled in Street Fighter a little bit on this podcast, just from having to play them at various times, and I could see myself getting into it. But like, I like Street Fighter 3, Third Strike, which is along with that Marvel vs. Capcom style, really beautiful pixel art. That's like
Yeah.
where I feel fighting games peaked for me visually. But if you go try to play that now and you go try to go on ladder with that, the
Yeah, good
only
luck.
people you run across are the people who have, from Gen X who have been playing that since college, and they just wreck you. There's absolutely no
Yeah.
learning. And
No.
actually,
Yeah, I used to I mean, even now, like I think last time I sat down and played, my wife will say this one all the time, but we went to an arcade at I think it was Mohegan Sun. And we went and played Mortal Kombat, old school arcade, and she beat me. And I'm like, wow, I'm just gonna give up on my arcade style games anymore.
I had a similar experience at a Smash Brothers tournament in my elder years here, and I was like, you know what?
So let me ask you
Smash
that. You say
Brothers
Smash
retirement.
Brothers. Are you one that says Smash Brothers is a fighting game or is not?
It is,
Because
but
there's like two sides to that coin.
it's a
I think,
specific subset of fighting games that I call brawlers, and I think it
Yeah.
yeah,
started the genre. And they're like now there's stuff like it, like Multiverse. I think is like the weird like DC one, and there's a Nickelodeon
Yeah.
one.
yeah, and you get Aether Rivals or something like
Yeah,
that
something
too.
like
Like,
that. But Super Smash Brothers was the original phenomenon where you just beat each other up until you like can like ring each other out. Basically, would be I think the way I might say it. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty much what you said. Like at times it feels like a regular, but anytime I think of a fighter is really like a one on one like straight line, not like multiple tiered areas that rotate and stuff like that. And like you hit a person so much they have the life bar. In something like Smash Brothers, you can just build up their percentage until you get that right hit, and then they blow off the screen. But they can still beat you and have it like 900%.
Yeah.
Like I played with my son a couple times. He likes it, but he also plays that Warner Brothers one that you were just talking about once in a while because it was a free download for like PlayStation Monthly or whatever it was. So he likes that one too. But playing it as like Shaggy and Scooby Doo and stuff, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I guess
it's a good time.
I guess that's that's kind of like falls into the question of the week too, with like the RNG, with like because that's absolutely true. Where like when you get like a percentage of like 300, that could just be totally random depending on the hits that you connect with, and you could die at like 70 because he just gets that right hit at the right time.
I think you're just not good at Smash Brothers, Dan, because I think the point of this conversation is that the good player always wins the fighting games, and it makes it hard for new players to participate.
Yeah.
Where, like a card game, like Steve is saying, Magic the Gathering, a new player can build a deck, and if a better player with better cards bricks, then they can win and they can feel good about it.
Okay, just play with items then.
Yeah, better.
All right. Let's go with Happiny. I hate any and all RNG coin toss odds and opening hand randomization associated with Pokemon TCGP. He sounds a little
I happen to know he was coming off a pretty bad bender of Pokemon TCG Pocket at the time he answered that question, so I'm not surprised to see it.
That's pretty funny. Okay. Let's see here.
One more?
I'll do one more.
All right.
Let's go with Relico. I would argue deck builders are a little different than an RNG-based mechanic required to progress gameplay. And even with deck builders, there's a critical card you need to build the deck, and it's RNG-based, and you'll never get it, but other people will have 10 copies. It feels sucky and unfair, especially if trading isn't allowed. It's one thing to not draw a card, it's another to not be able to build your deck altogether. And crit chance and stuff has its place, but it still feels bad to have 100% crit chance on a weapon and almost never actually crit.
That's bad game design, I feel.
Yeah.
If your numbers don't do what they say they do, that's just bad. That's just bad game design.
Yeah, we had a lot of back and forth with this question.
Yeah.
Discord went crazy.
Well, that's good. Good stuff coming out of there. But
yeah.
I am not ready because I'll never be ready because I don't like horror games particularly very much. But are you guys ready to talk about Silent Hill 2?
Absolutely.
My favorite genre.
All right.
I got my torchlight ready.
Silent Hill 2, if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you know that I'm kind of a big bitch when it comes to horror games, and even Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation and all of its polygon glory still managed to scare the crap out of me while I was playing it. But here we are doing it again. I'm going to kick it over to Justin so he can tell us a little bit about Silent Hill.
All right. So, Silent Hill 2, you guys can see here, is my Silent Hill shrine. Goes higher and lower. But my original, to kind of just get where I came into Silent Hill, is back in the day when I was working with some guys, a buddy of mine sold me a PS1, and one of the games that came with it was Silent Hill. I didn't know anything about it, never heard of it. I went home, hooked it up, and while going through the games, I ran into Silent Hill 1. And immediately fell in love with it to the point that my mom used to yell at me and be like, the coaster's on fire. Can you take care of that? So that started my love for the horror genre. Fast forward to when Silent Hill 2 came out, I was actually, this is going to date how old I am now. I was working at Best Buy in North Attleboro, and I was there for launch, and I got one of the launch edition Silent Hills, bought my PS2 at the time, and I just knew what I was getting myself into and loved it because Silent Hill 2 it hits you kind of differently because it's not only the straight horror of you fighting demons and the dogs and all that kind of stuff. It kind of messes with your head because
it does.
like you said earlier, you hear the sounds, you have the stuff that never actually shows up, but you keep having like these flashbacks and stuff, and running into the nurses, and once you run into Pyramid Head, the thing is, what a lot of people like, they kind of did a better explanation of certain things with the remake, how they dove into different parts of it. So my buddy actually played the remake before he played the original, and when he went back and played the original, he was like, "What? Like holy crap!" But I've just been a huge fan of the whole like horror genre. But Silent Hill 2, even if you look at a lot of the horror lists of like top 10 horror games, is always one or two. It's right up there because the psychological horror going with the actual like gore horror and everything of it, it's mixes well together. But the storyline is what makes it. He's there to find his dead wife, and then he runs into another girl that is very similar to his wife, but it's his manifestation, what he wanted his wife to be. And in every Silent Hill game, it's different for each character because it's basically the hell they make for themselves. So, I mean, I could kind of go back and forth with it.
Yeah,
but...
no, that's a really great way to say it. And I did a little bit of research on this game and its story, because the playthrough that I didn't really like get all of it because I was kind of rushing for this podcast. So I wanted to get some color around it. And this is a game where the story shines. I might even say this game probably has the most robust and profound story of any game we've played this year, maybe even last year. Like, it's, you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but your main character, I kind of get the sense, already went batshit and drove himself to Silent Hill because he doesn't remember the events. And you find out later that he's here, and all of these like monsters are just manifestations of the repressed memories that he's trying to block out. And even Pyramid Head, and I don't know how much of this is actually the devs' intention and how much like where the fan theory ends, but in Silent Hill 2, a lot of people seem to think that Pyramid Head is like chasing you because he's trying to get you out of Silent Hill, and he's attacking some of the other monsters because he's the manifestation of your character's mind trying to repress these memories to keep him away from the truth that he himself forgot.
It's essentially his guilt.
And like the fog is all the idea, like mind fog, and I mean it's just so there. It's so incredible. And what I find most interesting is that they had to tell this story as a game, because I don't think this would have worked as a book or a movie in quite the same way.
No, I mean, obviously they did the Silent Hill movies, which were nothing like the game.
They're pretty poorly rated.
I mean, I enjoyed them for what they were, but as like a diehard Silent Hill fan, with the new movie that's coming out, I'm hoping that they stick to the script a little bit more, because there's actually a fan movie out there that actually they on YouTube that's pretty well done for a fan movie. But
really,
with the I found it at one time, and it's actually got a pretty famous actor playing James. It kind of changes it a little bit.
Oh wow, they dared do Silent Hill 2 as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but what I liked about the new Silent Hill, the remake, when everybody heard about it, they wanted to, be like, Blooper Team can't do this, they can't do that. This is what happened to this game they did. I went into it, with an open mind because I knew things were going to be different. But what I did like, what they did about it, was they showed that James had been there over and over and over by the fact that you find your own dead body over and over and over at different places.
Yeah, I've actually noticed that too. Which is, that's kind of, screws with your head a little bit.
Yeah, because then you're like, isn't this the first time I'm doing this? But as you go along, you'll find his body's like in a fridge. You'll find his body's burned to a crisp randomly in the middle of the road. And they leave enough of it to show like his jacket, stuff like that, as you go along, where you're like, well, it might not be him, but it is. Yeah. And then the other best, good part about the Silent Hill games in general and 2 is it has that replayability, because you're going to miss stuff. You're going to miss parts of the story. You have to explore everything. And it has multiple endings depending on what decisions you make as you go through the game. So, if you want the full experience, you have to play the game 4 or 5 times. And you have to try to make different decisions as you go through. So, the most common ending a lot of people get, spoiler alert, is like the leave ending, where he leaves with the little girl Laura. They leave Silent Hill. They're able to get out.
Yeah.
And, you know, what
Yeah.
happens from there, who knows? The second most common ending is the water ending, where basically he drives his car into Toluca Lake and drowns.
Right.
And, you know,
What
that's how that ends.
wasn't he like hallucinating too with like his wife in like the back seat or something?
So that's the thing, is they've never said one way or another. I don't remember if they might have come out and said it, that her body's in the back seat or in the trunk.
Oh, you think it's in the trunk of the car the whole time?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's such another layer. I'm just going to go
Jeez.
ahead and spoil it because I think it's important for the context of the conversation. But how I understand the story is that he and his wife vacationed at some point in Silent Hill, and they had a good time. It was a happy memory. And then she got terminally ill, some kind of degenerative disease, for 3 years, and she was
Yep.
not able to leave the hospital. And in that time, their marriage fell apart, and she basically was like verbally abusive to him.
Yeah,
You know,
berating him and stuff.
and I think movies like try to paint a very like pious picture of terminally ill people, but if you read real life accounts and look into it a little bit, I don't think that's always necessarily the case. Like, I think it's a hard thing that people go through, and I don't know that they're necessarily responsible for every emotion they have and everything that comes out of their mouth. So basically, James going back and forth from home to the hospital, seeing her fall apart, and her berating him and feeling his feelings, he eventually flips and he decides that he doesn't like her either, right? But he sticks it out. And then
Yeah.
the doctor sends her home at some point, not because she's cured, but because it's like, this is your last, hurrah, basically. Sends her home. And in that time, I think it's speculated that James smothers her with a pillow or kills her.
Yeah.
And he reconciles it as it's a mercy killing at the time, but blocks it out of his mind. And he's lying to himself because the truth ends up being that he actually just wanted her out of his life at this point. He was just done with it, right?
Yeah.
So you don't find any of this out until the end, really. But that's
Right.
like the whole psychological aspect of what's going on here, and why a lot of the monsters look the way they do, because they're all like these physical manifestations. So it's this really profound storyline, and it's such a hard story to tell. And I think it's so steeped in reality. And then there's other stuff too, like so the monsters, the mannequins that are like the two attached lower halves.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, supposedly people think that it's him remembering having, a sexual relationship with his wife, but not wanting to remember her top half because he, smothered her. So and then there's the abstract daddy boss, which looks like two figures in a, intercourse position on a bed.
Yeah.
And it actually looks like one figure is forcing itself on the other, and that's the manifestation of that girl Angela's,
Yeah.
that
Her
past
father.
with her dad, right?
Yep.
And once you like see that stuff, you're like, oh my god, like the artistic direction of this game is horrifying and unapologetic.
Well, that's the thing, is it takes you to places that you don't really think about going mentally, especially with the abstract daddy, like you said. Like, you kind of get an idea of what Angela's been through, but she never fully says it. But when you kind of put everything together, you realize that unfortunately she was assaulted
Yep.
at some point, and this is her manifestation of her father. Because after you beat him, she comes up and just starts kicking the dead body, and and she kind of comes to terms with everything after that point, and that's why the last time you see her, she's walking up a staircase that's completely in flames. So that's like her path, where, because it's I don't know if it's actually out there or not, but I think it's kind of given that like she killed her father, and that's kind of like why, like, her redemption type story, if you want to call it that. But they never really. I feel like she should have gotten a little bit more of a backstory kind of fleshed out. But obviously, if you start going into too many characters on things, it can ruin a game. So it's always nice to kind of have that element of mystery or the unknown from there. But when you play the game, did you happen to play Born from a Wish?
No,
The
but
expansion?
I did watch it, so like I get the
Okay.
idea behind Maria. But yeah, no, go ahead, because I didn't get nearly enough of it.
So originally when it came out, it was an Xbox exclusive for the Born from a Wish segment. The only way you could get it on PlayStation was if you bought the greatest hits version. But the storyline, basically, she's all of a sudden like there, and she's talking to somebody who's behind a door, which you never see, and then you can kind of play her story up till when she meets James.
Oh,
Maria's
And
story,
she,
you mean, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's kind of cool because you get a different view of like, the whole thing with like Nighthaven and all that, and you get an idea of where she came from, and then why she looks so much like James's wife and stuff. So I hope they eventually put that out on the PS5 version or something similar to it, because I think it'd be kind of cool to revisit.
Do you think they're kind of departing from it? Like, what's your interpretation of the other characters? Because I thought some of them are manifest too, but maybe
Yeah,
not.
I mean, she obviously is. I think the character of like Eddie, he's I think he's going through his own version of what Silent Hill is, so he's not necessarily seeing the same thing you are.
yeah,
So he sees other things, but you guys are just basically crossing paths, because as you go along and talk to him, you find out, he's killed people,
yeah,
and now he finds you as being another person he has to take care of that's getting in his way. So
yeah. He
At
went
the very
downhill pretty damn fast too.
yeah,
he did.
Well, he tells you he gets bullied and stuff, and eventually he just turns on James, saying like, "You're one of them too."
Yeah.
Eh,
Like I was always like, where did he get the pizza from?
eh.
yeah,
I know, right?
yeah.
You
It's a
know?
perfectly good pizza too. I'm like, boy, I hope that's a manifest. Otherwise, he's gonna go revisit that toilet.
Yeah.
I I interpreted him as a manifest for a couple of reasons. One, you could describe his features in a high level way to be James, just a different version of him, like a much heavier set version. It's almost like they went out of the way to give him blonde hair and, make him white, no beard, same eye color.
Yeah.
And then he's very sensitive to what people say. That's like the thing that sets him off. Which,
Hmm.
I guess you could say, oh, it's bullying or whatever, but that's the whole reason that James, killed his wife when it comes down to it. They really emphasize the verbal berating that she would give him. It's not like she was up beating him because
Right.
she was bedridden. So I interpreted him to be like a subconscious, super sensitive version of himself that was unable to take criticism and then would murder for it.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean,
Like,
like basically, if he is like that, then all the other characters are pretty much like that too, like Angela and Maria and the little girl,
see,
right?
I can't reconcile Angela though in the same way.
Really?
I don't know. How do you see it?
See. I don't know, because it's just like it's just so out. This game is so out there that it's hard to like try to like get a definitive answer. But in my view, I kind of think of it as like what Scrooge said, or Justin said. They're their own like separate entities, and they just all happen to kind of meet in Silent Hill, and they're all dealing with their all inner demons and whatnot.
There's a point in time in the game where James says to, drawing a look a blank, not Maria, but the other girl.
Angela?
Angela. He says to her, "Don't you see all these things around?" And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So she started to get scared of him because he's seeing things, and that's kind of where like I figured they were all there on their own story, on their own account. The only one I didn't understand was why the little girl was there. She doesn't make sense. Like I was like, is she dead? And she's kind of like brought back with the thought of like with Maria and his wife and all that, is like, is that how she kind of came to be? Is like she's his second chance.
I think she's the clue to clue you
Yeah,
into the story early on because she claims to have met Maria, and James's story is that Maria's been dead for years.
yeah.
And sorry, Mary, his wife's name is
Mary's
Mary.
wife.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but she claims to have been in the hospital with Mary only a couple weeks ago, and he really flies off the handle at that comment and like yells at her for it. Right, so it's
Yeah,
almost like if you already knew the ending, I feel like you could see that as a potential hint early on. So I think she's real because Mary went on and on about Silent Hill being their special place. And I think she just went there, basically
yeah.
after Mary was out of the hospital. So I do think that she's real, actually, but it is hard to tell.
Yeah,
I think that's it. Go ahead.
it could go like either way, honestly. Like all the characters could just be a manifestation of James, or they could be their own separate entities. Like honestly, like it's almost like you can make it what you want it to be. I feel like.
I just know everybody's way too calm to be walking around in this town with all that stuff running around.
I
You know,
know,
when
like
you meet Eddie the first time, he's like, "Oh, there's monsters outside." I'd be like, "Dude,
stick together. Like get up.
yeah, hold me, please."
There's parts where it's like James will say it like it's like the second or third encounter with them, and then he's about to leave the room, and then James is like, "You're not going to go out there alone, are you?" He's like, "Yeah, I guess I am," and he just leaves.
He just walks out. He's like, all right, peace out. But that's kind of where I think like they all see something a little bit different. Is maybe he's not seeing those monsters exactly, and only James is seeing them as like in something that's aggravated towards him. Because like with the nurses and everything, he might have saw the nurses as when Mary was in the hospitals, he might have saw the nurses as like a bad thing.
Yeah,
That was whatever, and that's why he sees them. But in the same, he sees them as a sexualized character too. So it could have been the two-sided coin being like, my wife's been sick for all this time. I'm seeing these attractive nurses that are taking care of her, but in one way they're making her feel bad, but in another way he's attracted to them. So it's kind of that's why they have the no face, but they're still attractive from the head down, basically.
Which I
yeah,
think is a really human thing. I feel
Yeah,
like most people who have been in a long-term relationship have probably had that relationship, go through a rough patch or whatever, right? And not that we're all sitting here willing to give up on a relationship, but I feel like we all have eyes, so I
yeah,
feel
right.
like it's a really human thing to really kind of admit aloud in a piece of work like Silent Hill 2,
Yeah,
because obviously he stuck it out. He stuck it out for 3 years, so
right.
yeah.
the game does not imply that he cheated on her at any given time. I don't think
I don't think so.
No,
so.
but like you said, we're all human. We have eyes, and he can still have lust after something without ever acting on it.
Right. So
Absolutely.
I think it's cool that we can sit here and have this conversation about this game, because usually
Yeah,
it's just like, oh, let's look at the gameplay, let's look at this overall story. Story's
Well,
okay, it looks cool, but
that's the good side of it being, not just a straight horror game, and it's got the psychological aspect to it because with that being there, it gives you the opportunity to break it down because people are going to look at things differently as you go through the game. Like like I said earlier, when my buddy played through the game, he unfortunately had a rough time at one point, and he was able to connect to it differently than like I did. Certain things in the game reminded him of something he went through that I didn't go through,
right.
and it just hits different people in a different way. So I think that's how it's a little bit better. People are like, oh, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, and I'm like, I like both, but they're different styles of horror.
yeah, and I think one of the major differences is that Resident Evil takes place in the now. Like
Yeah,
everything you're seeing happen on screen is a part of the story, whereas Silent Hill, anything you could be seeing is really ambiguous as to what its true meaning is. And like Resident Evil doesn't dabble in that. It's a very linear, exactly how you're supposed to interpret it is what's on the screen kind of story for the most part.
yeah.
So, but yeah, it's really unique in that way. It kind of excites me quite a lot. Did you guys ever read Pet Cemetery?
Read
No.
no, seen the movies.
Yeah, the book is, so the movies really focus on like the end of the book where things start happening and the dead start to rise and stuff.
Yeah,
But the book itself is very much a psychological thriller where it's just the main character's descent into madness, where they go from a completely rational father grieving their dead child to someone who's loony enough to dig them up from the grave and try to resurrect them.
Oh
That's what this
wow.
game absolutely reminds me of, because the entire book is an exploration of particularly male emotions. I'd say
Yeah,
things that are uniquely masculine thoughts and emotions. At least
yeah,
because Stephen King is the writer and he's a guy and the character's a father, right? Um, and it just really says things aloud that you're like, oh, I might have thought that once or twice, but I wouldn't dare say it out loud. And
Yeah.
it's scary. It's scary in that
Yeah.
way.
I think one of the endings too, like he tries to resurrect his wife too. So like that kind of like what you just said there really hits home.
Yeah, and then the whole
Yeah.
game would be a metaphor for descent into madness, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they did say originally when they made the game that they kind of had Jacob's Ladder is kind of like a close connection to it, to Silent Hill. So because like his descent into madness basically as he goes through in the movie.
interesting.
Yeah.
I do want to switch gears a little bit because I do want to talk about the gameplay, because I think this is where for a lot of people it becomes comparable to Resident Evil. I find this one easier to play than Resident Evil, maybe because it's not the remake, but for a couple of reasons. One, you have a really good melee attack,
Yeah.
whereas the knife in the old games is just unacceptable.
But
I think that's-
the melee combat is just tedious in Resident Evil, like the early installments, is because a lot of the time, if you wanted to use like the knife like effectively, what you would do is like you would shoot like the knees or whatnot to get the zombie down, and then you would start like stabbing him, and then when he gets back up, you would switch to your pistol. So it was a lot of back and forth and a lot of menuing. This game, you don't have to do that at all. Like the pipe, all the melee weapons they're just great. They do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. It was always like, he rips off a piece of wood with a nail in it and just starts beating this thing to death. Like he didn't know what it was, and it's just like, well, this thing's coming at you, so what's your option? Fight or flight? So he decided to fight, because you have to fight through that spot. You can't run away. You have to immediately go into the melee. So I think if it was along the lines of Resident Evil 1 melee, people would get too frustrated, because I know I did with Resident Evil 1 a couple times, being like, that first zombie you meet, you're like, I died 2 or 3 times before I figured out how to do it, because it keeps grabbing you, and you're
Oh
like,
yeah,
I pretty infamously died on the very first screen of Resident Evil 2.
yeah.
I was like, oh, that's it? Already game over?
yeah, right.
We can tell this is going to be great. And I also find the enemies to be relatively harmless, at least early on. Like, they're really slow. They're even slow through the hospital, because the nurses, while they definitely are more formidable than the other enemies you see so far, like, they still can't catch you. Like, if you want to run past them, like,
And
they're not going to.
And it's usually like if you're using like your melee weapon, if you get that first hit, it's like it's all over for them.
Yeah. So that's going back and forth, but that's like the original one, like you're saying, you could go into it with very little like ability to beat something up. Like a normal everyday guy, like James pretty much was, could make it through Silent Hill because he gets a metal pipe, he gets a wood with a nail on it, and he's able to beat these monsters in a couple hits. Okay. Fast forward to the PS5 version, it's a completely different animal.
Is it really?
Like,
Yeah, I saw like the room where you get the flashlight.
Yeah.
And he flips it on, and the mannequin's there, and immediately starts like face hugging it.
Oh,
So there in the new version, I definitely recommend everybody play both versions
I want to play the remake.
for the storyline, the updated graphics, everything. But in the new version, be ready to get pummeled, because like when you could take on 2 nurses in the original, you can kind of go back and forth because you said they're sluggish, they're slow, whatever. This,
Yeah.
they're fast, they run, they come at you with a knife, they have pipes. And there's another version where they're already like bleeding and they're harder to kill.
Oh
like,
my god.
You can take James and he winds up with a pipe. You can get a good crack on him, but then you got to run backwards because she's coming at you.
You know what that reminds me of is if you guys ever played the GameCube remake of Resident Evil 1, I don't know if you guys know what the Crimson Heads were.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
That's exactly what that reminds me of.
yeah.
It's just like a souped up zombie. So it's like a souped up nurse, like where it's like they can just take hits and it doesn't even phase them. They're just
Like,
a lot more dangerous.
I was the type when I played Silent Hill, you save your bullets for like when you run into Pyramid Head or you run into those, few boss fights that you have. It got to the point where I was like using my shotgun on nurses.
Yeah.
You kind of come around a corner and you see there's a mannequin in the corner waiting for you to jump out, because they hide in this game where they didn't really hide in the first one. They will hide around a corner, underneath tables. You'll miss them completely until you walk by them, and then all of a sudden you're getting hit from the back. And they are much stronger, the enemies in this game, than they were in the original. But I think that it kind of helps because you got to figure back then that game was able to push itself with just being a psychological story, where now people want the interaction, the fighting based stuff, like all that in the game. So they kind of had to up it a tick. Because even the abstract daddy in the new game, you don't just fight him in the one room like you did in the original. You go through walls, you go through other rooms, you run out of ammunition, and then you have to figure out how to beat him with a pipe.
Oh, jeez. So,
Yeah,
that one seems like infinitely more scary, just because you feel a lot more helpless because you're not as strong as a player.
Well, the other thing is with the new one, and I tried it once and I died, but you get to a point where like the enemies, they continuously follow you. So if you get one that you basically tagged and you try to run away, they come after you. They keep coming. They keep coming. They just kind of linger. So if all of a sudden you have like 5 or 6 people, like enemies after you, you're in trouble because you can't fight that many. You're lucky if you can take 1 or 2 on at a time. Now all of a sudden you have, you got the mannequins, you got the nurses, you have the stalkers, like all coming at you. And then every once in a while you get hit with the little cockroaches at your feet too.
Yeah.
That you can't even see. You're like, what is going on? And they just tick away at you until you finally figure out this thing's at your foot somewhere. You have to stomp on it.
Yeah, I killed everything that I came across in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Prejudice.
Yeah. The remake, it's a little harder to do because it's not as easy to walk up to a nurse or even the mannequins and just hit them with the pipe unless you've learned to use the dodge button very well. So have the dodge button be your friend when you play the remake.
Yeah, I found, I think what you're saying adds a lot to this game, because if I were to lob a criticism, it would be that the enemy variety is extremely low. Like, yeah. I think I play for 5 hours ish before I got to the nurse, and before that it was just like the body bag straight jacket guys.
Yeah, it's like
they're like
they're like stalkers.
Yeah, it's like their own area. Like their own area, like the apartments have their like set of or enemies, and then just like the hospital have its own like set of enemies, and I think that's just how like Silent Hill works. It's just like they each all have their own set depending on where you are.
Well, then the sets end up in the overworld though, because I noticed after the apartments the mannequins were like jumping out of the woods and stuff.
Yep, yeah. They come out of everywhere,
flying through the air. And actually, there was one where like a stalker crawled out from underneath the truck. You know how they like crawl sometimes. That ended my first play session. I was playing by myself with headphones on. I was like, all right, that's it for me tonight. We're gonna save state right there.
See, when I used to sit and play the original, or even on the PS3 when they remastered at that time, I would sit there and make sure all the lights were out. The only glow was from the screen of the TV.
He's a madman.
And I would play with headphones on. That's the other thing about the new one is you have to play the new one if you play the original. And there's just so much good about it because when you wear headphones, there's random ambient sounds that you hear. Even when you know you're completely alone, there's no bad guys around, nothing. You'll hear something in the distance that makes you turn. Like, wait, did I hear that or is it in the game?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so I mean, we play games in no particular order on this podcast, but this is one of the series where we have the luxury of having played the first one first.
Yeah.
And I feel like the first one did that a lot. In fact, I thought that was kind of a stark difference between that one and this one, was the ways that the first one built tension. Like, you'd just be leaving a room and you'd hear like a boom, and like from blatantly behind you, and you'd turn around and there'd be nothing there. And the game would just do stuff to you like that.
That's like I loved it when you were in Toluca prison and you're going through part of the lower area. You can't get to the upper area in the original version of Silent Hill 2, but you hear somebody above you groaning and walking the whole time when you go through a certain part of the prison. And you're like, is this guy going to come down at me or something?
Yeah.
Is it Pyramid Head just walking back and forth, but you hear somebody groaning and stomping the whole time?
Yeah, I'd be looking for the nearest exit. I'd be like, see you later.
Just jiggling door handles.
Yeah.
That's something that's kind of interesting too. I actually refer to this game as Horror Zelda sometimes because it does feel like you go to a dungeon, and like you have to solve puzzles. You got to find items in different rooms, and it's definitely a lot more morbid.
You got your light world and dark world essentially.
Yeah, and the dark world in the first game was a lot more pronounced than this one. except for the hospital. The hospital was a very, very much like, all right, now we're in the dark world for sure. But the first one, it really raised the tension. Like, it was already kind of scary, but then you realize that something freaky was going on, and you're like, oh, this is bad.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
always appreciated that you couldn't just run off one of the ledges when you were in the other world, because there'd be times you're just running full bore, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a giant hole here,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have to find another way. But like, in some games, you just be like, haha, you ran off a ledge, But this one, at least it like stops you, because otherwise, the amount of times you'd have to go over and over again would be nauseating.
It's a really interesting way of making you feel like you have license, but still kind of guiding you.
Yeah.
Exploration in this game is great too. Very rewarding. Just
Right.
stumble across a room with more bullets and
Yeah.
health items and whatever else, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's plenty of health items, plenty of handgun ammo, like,
If you look for it. I mean, you
yeah,
could
if you look
just
for it, yeah, but like, yeah, you
pass
like you
through.
said, you definitely get rewarded for exploration. Another thing I love that this game does when you're exploring is that, like, he'll mark it on his map, like which
Yeah.
rooms he's visited, or like he needs to write down a certain clue that you need to know. Like, he'll put it down right on the map, and that's just excellent. Like, more games need to do that.
Yeah, Steve hates the map for some reason, but I think the map's great. And he's a huge Zelda guy, and I think some Zelda map systems are like, I don't get it at all.
I know some people hate the map system in this, like you said, because you're literally running 5 feet, looking at a map, running 5 feet, looking at a map.
I
It's
feel like I
unplayable,
do that
Well, I
anyways in
view
every
that as
game.
a me problem, not a game problem.
right? Yeah. But I mean, like you said, for the fact that he would make notes on the map, I have to go back here to do this. Here's the combination for this. Once you figure it out, I can't go up this staircase, but I can come down this staircase, like stuff like that. Like, it's good to remember, because if all of a sudden you're like, all right, I got to get out of here, you have to kind of pull up your map and then kind of keep running.
Yeah, well, especially when you're getting older like us, it's a godsend, because it's like sometimes you don't remember every little thing that you did. So it's like the fact that he just like writes it all down for you is just great.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously back when it first came out, we didn't have the luxury of the internet quite like we do now, and you had to buy the guidebooks and stuff, which I love the old Premier guides. Like, there'd be times like you'd get stuck, and you were stuck until you figured it out, or you went and bought that guide. You couldn't just go to YouTube and watch somebody who had already played it a week before it came out to get past that part. But that's what I like about the old games. It's like you had to figure it out, and if you didn't figure it out, you had to wait till you went to school to ask your friend if they played it, if they figured it out. Or you had
Or
to go get your parents to bring you to the store so you could get the guide to go with the game to
oh,
help you get
absolutely.
past that
Or at
part.
least peek at it without buying it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Be like, oh,
There
that's
were
how I do it.
there were the times too where it's like you just drop the game completely. Like, there's been times
Yep.
where I had to do that
Yeah.
because just couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
I also appreciated the game let you pick your difficulty. Not just like easy, medium, hard. It was like the combat easy, medium, hard, and the puzzles easy, medium, hard, which provides a good amount of replay value, because
Oh,
I
absolutely.
would assume I actually put the puzzles on easy because I didn't want to get stuck and
Yeah.
not want to play. I knew this was going to be really easy for me to get demotivated, but I kept the combat normal. I kind of wish I had flipped that, because the combat is a little lacking, but the puzzles I thought were really fun. Like, they're
Yeah.
Yeah.
really fun to
I
go
think
through.
I think in the original, if you make the combat harder, it basically makes it so it's more hits to kill them,
Yeah.
and you have less ammo that you come across, stuff like that. It's like how it makes it harder. So
Yeah.
you actually have to end up meleeing more than you would, if you did it normal or easy.
I wonder if they flinch less too. That would definitely make it harder.
Yeah.
It's the flinching that like destroys them.
Yeah, just the hits. Well, you also get a takedown too.
Yeah, it's like I said before, it's like as soon as you get that first hit, it's just like they're stun locked. So like, that make, in my opinion, that makes the combat a little too easy. But like, if you play it on the hardest difficulty, and there'd be like maybe sometimes a few hits that they just tank it and still just like swipe at you, then yeah, then it would be a fair amount harder.
All right. So I feel like we've gushed on about this game for a while, and I think there's definitely a lot more we could say. But I'm going to ask you what I ask everybody that comes on this show, which, how do you think that Silent Hill 2 is going to do in the league, Justin?
So I think people that enjoy the psychological horror, it tends to run the gamut and a lot of times run anything else over that's in its way as far as games go. But if you're not like yourself into the horror genre, you might not lean that way as much. You might take something else over it. So it's really going to come down to whether you like the genre or not, I think, whether it's going to, take anybody else out. But in my idea, I think you can go all the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it could.
I mean, it is very popular, and I think I'm kind of the anomaly of people that don't like horror games. I think most of my friends do. And I'd say most.
But like I said earlier, like a lot of times when they make lists of the most popular PS2 games or like, obviously horror games, it's always one of the top games out there for the system.
Also, this one's kind of expensive too, right?
Yep. Yeah, I haven't looked it up in a while because one, I haven't come across one to resell, and once it's in my collection, I don't, kind of go back and forth too much. But I want to say it's like usually fluctuates somewhere between 2 to 250 right now, I think, for an original copy. And that's really the regular or the greatest hits, even though I think the greatest hits is a little bit better because it has the Born from a Wish story on it. I remember finding these at like Savers and stuff for $5 a pop, but those days are long gone. But like I said, I got my original copy when I worked at Best Buy back when it came out. So I paid whatever the original $50 was at the time for it. And I actually still have my original copy sitting. I think it's this one right here. Oh no, that's the Xbox. This is the first one right here. And then right next to it's the Born from a Wish. So real quick, while I'm pointing, this is every version of pretty much every Silent Hill there is, minus the international releases.
Wow.
That's an expensive shelf right there.
That whole shelf is Silent Hill?
Yeah, so this is all Silent Hill. This is the greatest hits. That's my original greatest hits version because my sister let her boyfriend at the time borrow my Black Label copy and he never gave it back. But this is my Black Label copy that I found at the flea market for $5. And then this is actually my most recent pickup, which is the demo for Silent Hill 1. That one's not cheap anymore. It cost me a pretty penny. But yes, this is my I got a lot of these before they skyrocketed because I was a fan. I remember getting which one? Kind of jumping off the Shattered Memories. I left my price tag on it actually. I got it at Retro World Expo one of the years I went. I paid $40 for it, and that one's well over $200 now too.
Wow!
Nice pickup. Very, very nice.
But
Would you have picked the first game instead of this one if it were available?
I don't know. I thought about it at the same time because I was like, obviously the first game is your introduction. It was how it really kind of dumped me into the whole horror aspect of all games in general. But Silent Hill 2 is still probably my favorite Silent Hill out of all of them. I mean, the first story is great, and again, it's got that replayability factor, and it's directly connected to Silent Hill 3. So it's got that backstory that you do have to kind of play 1 before you play 3. You don't necessarily have to play 1 before you play 2.
Agreed.
So there's at least that in place. So I think that's why it was when they redid, they remastered Silent Hill, they did Silent Hill 2 because you didn't need to know Silent Hill 1, although there's supposedly they lost the original like devs and stuff for Silent Hill 1 and that's why they didn't remaster it. But supposedly now they are coming out with it because of how well the remake of Silent Hill 2 did.
Oh, that'd be awesome. So, I actually thought I think Henry was the first protagonist, right?
Harry?
Yeah.
Oh,
Harry.
It was Harry.
Harry and his daughter Cheryl.
Yeah. So when you're looking in the mirror, like in the second game, I thought that was Harry at first. I didn't know it was a completely different protagonist. Okay. I thought it was just a continuation of the story. Then I was like, oh, wait a minute. These are two different guys.
Yeah. So the funny part is, touching on that scene, is when James is looking in the mirror, somebody finally hacked the game to the point that they were able to see his reflection, and he's looking at you. He's not looking at himself. He's looking at the reflection of you over his shoulder in the character.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So in the new game, I keep saying the new game, in the remake that they did on the PS5, as you progress through the game, when you go to look at like your health meter, it's his face. And as you progress, he starts looking away from the screen. Like he can't look you in the face because he's realizing what's going on.
Oh wow.
That's so neat.
Yeah.
I love how this story is told. It's
Yeah, I
so
need to play
good.
that remake, dude.
Oh my god. All right. Well, before we let you go on this episode, tell us more about what you do and where our listeners can find you if they are so inclined.
You can find me at Spruce Retro Hunting on YouTube, and really, if you search Spruce anywhere, I'll pop up on Instagram, Facebook. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I'm not one of those YouTubers who doesn't respond to things. I do a lot of conventions and shows. My next convention is actually Virtual World Expo in Connecticut in September the 12th through the 14th. So if you guys are in the area, it's definitely worth coming on down. Tons of video games, tons of a lot of the other YouTubers are going to be there. It's the 10th anniversary, so they're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff there. If you're in the New England area, they do a lot of shows from anywhere from as high as New Hampshire sometimes to Connecticut. And then in October, I'm going down to Arkansas for our RetroFest Arkansas in Retro Rick. So he's been a buddy of mine for a long time too. So I'm sure if you watch me, you watch Rick.
I do actually watch both, as a matter of fact. All right. Well, thank you for coming on with us tonight.
Absolutely.
And hope to have you on again. And
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we're going to transition over to our host review portion.
All right.
Pleasure to have you.
All right, so this is the part of the show where I like to get our plugs in. I like to talk about where you can find us, which is anywhere you can find podcasts. If you're listening to us on a listening platform, come check us out on YouTube, because Dan puts a lot of work into the visual aspects of this show. He's a pretty good editor. So it's a good time to come over there and see our beautiful faces,
Yeah.
but more so Dan's beautiful designs. You can also, if you're so inclined, come hang out with us on Discord. Those are our favorite fan group, wouldn't you say, Dan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Discord's always popping off, especially with like the question of the weeks and stuff, or like the current game that we're playing. Always tons of fun.
This past period in particular, I feel like there's been a lot of activity.
Oh yeah, probably the biggest it's ever been.
Yep.
I think.
You don't have to play retro games to hang out there either. We play other games too. We got a little Pokemon, a TCG Pocket community blossoming over there. We've got a Slay the Spire vibe, and of course you can play any game and talk about anything gaming you want over there, and just come hang out in our little corner of the internet. And then if you, listener, would like to be a part of the Cable Club League, email us at thecableclubpodcast@gmail.com or leave a comment here with a game that you would like us to play and cover that we have not done so before. You can also check out our entire backlog over on the listening platform of your choice, and consider subscribing. And if you are a long-time listener, look around the screen and try to find where you can leave us a review. A fair review. It's fine. You don't have to give us 5 stars. You don't have to lie. But if you want to give us some fair criticism, or if you want to give us some fair praise, absolutely hit that review button. It helps the algorithm find us.
For sure.
But for now, we're just going to continue our review of Silent Hill 2. So I think one thing we didn't cover, we covered almost everything with Justin, I feel. But one thing we didn't cover, I think, was the sound, like the actual music itself.
So yeah, some of the music is actually really good. Like I think the songs when you're meeting Angela, I think that one in particular is pretty good.
And I like that some of them are, I want to say ambient, but it's not the right word. Some of them are actively kind of to put you on edge. Like there's the sound when you enter the apartment where you meet Eddie, and there's the dead guy in the corner.
Yeah.
It's just that really rancorous, like, cacophony type of music that just blasts you, and you like get into the fight position and you're ready to swing your pipe.
Yeah. It's like, oh, what's coming at me? Yeah, no, like some of the music is just good. Like, I mean, I know it's not really known for that, but like it definitely has a couple good scores for sure. There's one song in particular that's actually pretty good.
When do you hear it the first time?
I think it's when you meet Angela for the first time, or the second time.
Yeah, Angela's theme. I know the one you're talking about. It is really good.
Yeah.
And then also, like, I don't know, I found I was a little bit emboldened this week because the combat's kind of funny. that
Yeah.
like he has such like a reaction like I would have to these things. Like if I was holding a lead pipe, you just like swing that thing back and you just dome one of these guys, and it's such
Yeah.
a satisfying crunch that the game makes when you hit one.
Oh yeah. I love the little recoil animation that he does when he hits him. It's so funny.
Just like this devastating hit, and he does this little stomp takedown.
Oh yeah.
Like he has like the foot of God. He can just like stomp and kill.
Just one shot everything. Like just stomp everything. You know, like even just push him down and then just stomp. Get it over with.
And I mean, I played on normal difficulty, so I don't know how much
So
I
did
can
I.
talk. But there weren't a lot of moments where I felt overly threatened by the enemies, and like I
No.
started to get a sense maybe 2 hours in that I wasn't going to see much new. So I wasn't like that afraid of exploring new areas because I was like, oh, I'm just going to see a mannequin or I'm going to see one of those straitjacket guys, and I already know how to deal with that. So
Right. And the melee is just so serviceable in this game that like you can really stock up on ammunition, like especially the handgun ammo. Like I think there was one point when I was playing, I was at like 150, like just because I'm trying to save it for like bosses or like when I like really need it. The part where like you're like stuck in that like pyramid head, and you're in that small encased area, and you gotta like run around and you gotta shoot his back and stuff, and eventually he leaves.
so you don't even have to do that. Apparently, it's just a timed fight. He just gives up.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if it was like you had to do enough damage or if it was just like because I remember the sirens started to go off, so I thought like maybe I just did enough damage and it just like cued the sirens. But like, yeah, so you didn't have to do anything. Like you just have to run.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the scariest parts about that boss, I think, because it doesn't tell you. It's not
No,
like Dark
and
Souls
it
where you
takes a
get a
long
health
time.
bar.
It takes a long time
Yeah,
too. I was
you're
like,
just trying to survive.
wow.
And he also one-shots you, but to be honest, the only time I died in this game, and I think I got 75% of the way through, just based on where I looked in the guide and where I was. I got to the labyrinth.
Yeah,
The only time I died was one time. It was like a partially an escort mission, and that girl Maria. You have to
yeah.
run away from Pyramid Head. So I didn't know what to do, and I tried to fight Pyramid Head off. Only she's standing in the way, so I ended up shotgun blasting her right in the face, and it killed her. And then I lost. That was the only time I.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, I didn't get as far as you, but like the game, like honestly, I mean, maybe hard is a lot harder. I don't know. Like I didn't play that, but like the game is fairly easy on normal. But I just I don't really think the difficulty is like what really drives this game home. Like it's just the whole story and just the whole like atmosphere that this game offers. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and the bosses too. I feel like are just they're just bullet sponges. Like they don't
Yeah,
that abstract daddy boss that we were talking about.
yeah,
The guide I read on him was like attacks, hugging, and like he just slowly shambles along chasing you. Like I just ran from one side of the room to the other repeatedly and just punished him accordingly as I could with the handgun, and he just eventually goes down.
yeah.
So he was pretty easy.
Yeah, I feel like you can do that with a mostly everything in this game where you just run away. Like James actually moves. He's like really fast. Like especially like if I'm
Relative
think
to those things, yeah.
well, like just in general. Like I'm just thinking about like Resident Evil. Like they don't run near as fast as James does.
And you get infinite run too. It's not one of those games like I think in Resident Evil 4, I think there's a limit. Like I think if you run too long, Leon will
I don't. Yeah,
stop.
he'll like slow down. But
Yeah.
like, but even in 1, 2, and 3, the base run speed is just not that fast. Like James moves. He's very mobile.
He moves like I would move if I were in this situation. I would not for any amount of money walk into one of those buildings in the
No.
dark with nothing but a little pen light. Not even in real life if I didn't know it was if I knew I wasn't in Silent Hill, if I was just in Providence, Rhode Island where I live now.
Oh, or like the random like crevices or holes like he'll jump into, like where you can't see what's on the bottom. Like, yeah, no thanks.
Dude, there was like one where he's like, I think there's something in the wall. Should I reach my hand in there?
Oh
I'd be like,
yeah,
no.
Yeah, it's just like insane. Like
Absolutely not.
this guy has no fear sticking his like arm in things, like, you know, whether it's in the wall, in a shitty toilet, like it don't matter.
Oh yeah, the shitty toilet was the worst, right? It was like fish it out. I was like, yeah, and then he digs his hand in there, and I'm like, oh
Like, what are
no,
you doing, dude? You have a pipe in your hand. Like, at least try that first, dude.
so disgusting.
He doesn't even pull his like sleeve up. He's just
Dude, no,
like,
he goes for it. Sticks his hand right in that toilet, and you get a good shot of it because it's like bird eye view. That thing is filled to the brim
yeah.
with gas station hot dog diarrhea. Disgusting.
It's the first toilet Eddie threw up in, and he just moved to another one because he filled that one up.
The game has its gross moments too. Like there's one boss that's called like Flesh Lips or something
Uh,
like. Yeah, and it's the one that hangs from the ceiling, and it's like two legs and has this weird mouth that moves in the middle of the two legs. Yeah, it's messed up.
yeah, I'm trying to look for a picture of it.
It's like the rest of the things. It's hard to tell
Yeah,
until you see it stopped, and you're like, oh, it's designed like that, huh?
yeah, a
And then
lot
like
of
the final boss is similar too. I looked up a video of somebody beating the final boss just because I wanted to see it, and
yeah.
it
Well,
just carts around trying to get you, and you run away from it, and you shoot at it, and then
yeah,
eventually it
James is
dies.
just much too fast.
Much too fast. Yeah, that's
He
it.
is. They can't catch him. What was the final boss? I don't even know.
Yeah, so you realize that Marie is like a manifestation of either how James feels his wife should have been, or maybe a nostalgic version of her from when they first met, or whatever. But, you know, she's a somewhat more scantily clad version of James' wife, maybe younger. And it's a version of her, some ideal that he has to let go of, basically. And when he does in that scene, she morphs into a hideous monster and, you know, chases after him, basically, and you have to kill her. But she flies around on like a bed thing.
Really
Yeah, and you shoot her, and she just comes after you.
interesting.
Yeah, so the bosses are not much to write home about, really.
Yeah, the I know we talked about this a little bit, but I never got to say it about like the other characters. Like, there was another point I wanted to make where it was like they like when we were talking about like how James sees, like, you know, like the way he sees Silent Hill, like with like the nurses and like the mannequins and whatnot. What I wanted to say was the other characters, because there was a point in the game where he's like, "Oh, you don't see those," and they would be like, "No, we don't see that in particular." But maybe because they're going through their own journey, they see different things that like James can't see. Like, so whatever like would haunt them, they would see that themselves. Like, what comes to mind is like the scene where Angela's like climbing the stairs and it's just like everything's on fire, and James makes a comment saying like, "Oh, it's so damn hot in here." And then Angela is basically like saying, "Oh, you can finally see the fire." It's like, I've been seeing these for forever now.
Yeah, this is just the way it looks to me, or something like
So
that.
basically, like wherever she was going, everything was just always on fire. You know what I mean? So like everybody's seeing something different based on their traumas.
Yeah, that's kind of when you figure it out. It is
Yeah.
such an interesting specimen, and
Yeah.
for me to be able to enjoy it, I think, you know, that makes it rank pretty highly for me.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, it makes me like want to beat this and go on to the remake and beat that too. Like Silent Hill 2, I can see why you know, people treasure it so highly.
When you go back and visit these games, like I definitely have rose-colored glasses for PlayStation 2. I'm not saying it's bad at all, but these games I hold up on a pedestal in my mind because PlayStation 2 is my favorite console ever, and I played it during like such like my formative years. And when I go
Yeah.
back to some of the games, I realize their flaws. And
Yeah.
it also sometimes makes me play a game like this and realize how ambitious it is for the time. Especially because PlayStation 2 was kind of the era where enough people had known about video games and were really starting to give video games flack for having crap story. And I think that was mostly true for the time.
Yeah.
or at least a fair assessment, because it was still evolving. But this game really, really has a very fleshed out story and point and telling of it. You know,
Yeah. No, it does. Like when I was, playing this game and then I was looking up like the rest of the story, I was just like, how the hell does somebody come up with like this? Like,
yeah,
it's
it's
just
genius.
it's so crazy. It's like I could never think of a story like that in a million years. It's just like I was just impressed, honestly.
But
Like,
I do think what holds it back a lot is just the repetitiveness of the gameplay loop. Like,
yeah,
I think there could have been more weapons or something, or maybe less ammo or something to kind of like stress you out a little bit, or the bosses could have been more dynamic, or there could have
yeah,
just been fewer enemies or smaller biomes, or I don't really know what to say about that, because like I get artistically the enemies are supposed to represent the memories, and there's supposed to be 9 of them corresponding to these like 9 red cards you see in the beginning or something like that.
yeah,
So there can't be that many, but it really makes parts of the game a slog when you've clubbed the same enemy to death in the same fashion you have for the last 30 times and you haven't seen
yeah,
anything new.
yeah. No, if that definitely, like, I think like the puzzles and whatnot, and the story is what carries it mostly. Like the combat, like I said, it's serviceable, but like there's not a lot to it. And like we said before, like James, just he's very quick on his feet, so a lot of the time you don't really feel like you're all that much in danger. And like they just throw handgun ammo, they throw health at you, so it's just like you never feel like you're like in serious trouble. And I do think that like takes away from it a little bit, because usually with like survival horror games, like you have a sense of like, you're helpless almost like, because basically like with Resident Evil they try and keep the ammo scarce and stuff like that, and you don't run like super fast, so it's like you feel super vulnerable. And a lot of the time it's like you'll run by enemies because it's like, well, I can't just dump everything into this crowd because then I don't know what's up ahead. This game you can just maul everything,
Yeah,
no question.
what you said too, I don't know what's ahead, what's up ahead is a huge facet of the Resident Evil games, because there could be like anything. Like I feel
Yeah,
like in the first part of the game you encounter regular zombies, you encounter lickers, you encounter the dogs, right? Like
yep,
already there's a ton of enemies, there's
yep,
giant spiders,
spiders, yep.
and the enemy variety is there and they all behave differently, and you have to tackle them all kind of in different ways.
Yeah,
And I think that's a challenge for the gameplay of Silent Hill. And I think if I was to offer a suggestion, because I don't think Silent Hill has to be rock hard. Like, I
no,
don't like it when a game is so hard that you just die and die and die and you keep doing the same thing over and over again. I think I might suggest that you just throw the combat on easy and throw the puzzles on hard. And I
yeah,
think you might get the most out of the game that way, entertainment value wise, as you ride through to try to get to the meaty parts of the story.
yeah. Which probably honestly wouldn't be that bad. Like, not every game has to be like Resident Evil style, It's just like, Silent Hill could be like harder in its own ways, and like what you said, it could just be through the puzzles, you
It's still
know?
going to creep you out. It
Oh
definitely
yeah.
still creeps me out.
Yeah, oh yeah, like with the ambient noises and stuff, or like the feet scraping above you, and the moaning, or the baby crying, or like it's just, yeah, it'll get under your skin for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's supposed to do. And I think the combat takes a backseat. It's nice that I don't know if this is a greatest hits exclusive thing, but it's nice that you can turn that part of it down. Like you can just
Yeah,
turn that part of the game down, and if combat's easier, I imagine enemies take less damage, therefore they take less time.
right.
So it gets you to the better parts of the story.
Yeah.
So
And then obviously like you got your hard mode, which is probably, the polar opposite of that, which is they just take longer to kill. I like, who knows, like maybe they flinch less, I don't know. Like I didn't play it on hard, but like that, I think that one change would make the difficulty spike much higher.
so I think that's all I have to say about Silent Hill. How about
Yeah. And we said quite a bit a lot with Justin, so
this is the part of the show where we would rate the game, put it into our patented retro game league. We're not gonna, because we don't have Steve with us.
Steve.
But Dan, play that sound anyway. So our Retro Game League, just so everybody knows, if this is your first time joining us, we've been doing this all year pretty much. We're trying to play 25 games. We're going to sort them into cups, 5 cups. We're a Pokemon-scented podcast, so they're Pokemon Stadium-style cups. They start with Apricorn. They go Pokeball, Great Ball, Ultra Ball, and Master Ball. We sort them into cups because at the end of all this, we're going to have our community vote on which games deserve to win in each cup. That way our league has space for your really crazy masterpiece games, like some of them at the top. We have like StarCraft in this league, right? Unarguably a very good game. But also for your more hipstery picks, nostalgic picks, more toward the bottom, and they can still win prizes. And what are our prizes, Dan?
All right, so I'll start from the top. So for Master Ball, we got a nice, beautiful belt. You know, I want that belt.
Big title belt.
Yeah. Then, obviously, with Ultra Ball and then Great Ball, Pokeball, we got like the respective like cartridges.
Yeah,
So, like
golden cartridges.
Yeah. So like N64, SNES. I think we got a N.
Yep, and also a Game Boy cartridge.
And a Game Boy cartridge.
Yeah.
So and then we also have a funny reward too for like worst game. We'll get a toilet reward. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. And this will be decided by our community through a vote once we are done with this league. So that's it for now. We are going to set Silent Hill 2 aside. And the next game that is going to enter the Retro Game League is a tactical RPG, which is the second tactical RPG that we have
another
played.
one, huh?
Yep. It's on a Nintendo console this time, a Nintendo GameCube.
Oh.
It is a long-standing series. I think it is... somebody's going to correct me on this, but I feel like it's the 6th entry in the series. Is Fire Emblem Path of Radiance for the GameCube.
Wow. I'm not a big tactics guy, but like I'm definitely... I've seen you guys play it a lot when we were younger, so like it's now time for me to take a crack at it.
Yep, this is one of the few Fire Emblems I haven't beaten, so I am excited to bring this one.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go.
And talk about it. But for now, I do like to say at this point that our theme music is done by Cubby, and our editing on this podcast is done entirely in-house. We're a pretty talented crew, the three of us. So we edit our own podcast, do our own graphic design, all that kind of good stuff. I also like to thank our listeners just for hanging out this long. So thank you for being a part of this community. It makes it all worth it for us, especially if you're one of those Discord folks that hang out with us every single week. And if you're not one of those Discord folks, think about coming over. You get all, full-time access to the three of us.
Absolutely. It's a good time.
So until next time, game over.
Game over.